Jurassic. Written by Elizabeth Duivenvoorde, with art by Kosmonautthai. Chapter 3. Time passed, and at first Violet and her sisters got to play with Blue, Delta, Charlie, and Echo quite a bit. But as the 8 grew older, their playtimes became fewer and fewer. Blue and her sisters were moved to an enclosure outside the lab's training facility and further away from the public. Violet and her sisters grew bigger, stronger, and faster, but they never once stepped outside. Mommy Melody walked into the training room with other fleshies. One of them wore white, 2 of them in black, and the last one had red hair and seemed out of place. She was well dressed and seemed to walk around with her nose stuck in the air. Violet watched the group through the chain fence. Mommy Melody had been observing them behind that fence more lately and playing with them directly less and less. "How are they?" the man in white asked. "Well, they're going a bit stir-crazy, Doctor. They need time outside to stretch their legs," Mommy Melody replied. "I think they're ready for some real tactical training like Owen's raptors. They're ready to learn how to hunt for real." He shook his head. "No, that's not in the cards for these animals. They weren't created for the military like the others. I created them to help with my work." Mommy Melody frowned. "What do you mean?" The red-haired lady responded. "What Dr. Wu is saying is that the park is developing a new attraction and we need samples from your raptors. We need to test them." She then smiled sweetly. "By the way, I don't believe we've met. I'm Claire." "I don't care who you are." Mommy Melody looked at Violet, then at the people. "I'm not letting you do that to my raptors." "Sorry, Melody, but they aren't your raptors, and since your apprenticeship is nearly up, I'm moving you to another sector of the park. I'm thinking you could be a great asset with working with the T-Rex," Claire said slowly. The 2 men in black took weapons out and pointed them at Alpha and Omega. Violet shifted. What were those strange things? What was happening? Why did Mommy Melody look so upset? What did all those words mean? Who were these people and why were they upsetting Mommy Melody? 2 shots fired and Omega and Alpha fell to the ground. Mommy Melody let out a scream. One of the men pointed their weapon at Violet and she dashed towards them. She and Beta both jumped onto the chain fence, trying to break through. They bit at the metal and shook the fence. Voices called out, but they didn't sound panicked. "Shoot them already," the doctor said impatiently. Mommy Melody was sobbing and being escorted out by the cruel Claire woman. The weapons fired again. Violet felt a pain in her underbelly. Her body felt tingly, and the world around her began to spin. Her grip on the fence released, and blackness overtook her before she even felt the ground. The air around Violet felt different, colder. The space she was in felt small, almost claustrophobic. It smelt off, too, like chemicals and decay. When Violet opened her eyes, it took a moment for her to adjust to the bright lights. As her eyes adjusted, she saw small creatures in glass cases. Her stomach growled. "Don't bother," Omega's voice rang out. "I already tried. We seem to be in some sort of confined space." Violet's gaze went to her sister, who was in a small metal-looking like box with bars. She saw Beta and Alpha were also in the same sort of contraption. It wasn't until then that Violet looked around and noticed the same cold box around herself. What was going on? Where was Mommy Melody? Footsteps echoed from the other side of the door. A beep sounded and the door opened. His scent entered the room first. The man in white. The doctor walked over to the 4 of them and grinned. "Oh good, you're all awake." He focused on Violet. "I was worried the dosage they gave you might have been too much." Was he directing that comment right at her? "Now listen," he continued. "This arrangement is simple. You give me what I need with no issue, and you get to live. Easy as that." He gestured a couple of scientists over. "Get a blood sample from each one of them." A man approached Violet's cage. Violet hissed and growled as the strange man took a long pointed object out of his briefcase. "This will only pinch a bit," he said. The sound of Beta's cry of pain set Violet off. She lunged at the man when he reached into her cage with the strange object in hand. She latched onto his arm with her mouth, digging her teeth into his flesh. The man yelled in pain and the others came to his aid. They tugged on him, but Violet fought back, ripping his arm from his body. A sharp pain shot through Violet's leg. She looked down to find a dart with a red puff at the end. The world began to spin again. "Violet," Alpha called with concern. "Don't feed that one for the next 3 days. See if she's still got some fight in her after that," the doctor ordered. Violet didn't break eye contact with the doctor, even though the smell and taste of blood was distracting. She wanted to devour the arm she'd taken or watch her prey as he hollered for help and to get him to a hospital. But she fought those urges to keep her eye on the doctor until her world went black again.